Hi, hello. Welcome back to Bear Knowledge Center. And in this today's session, we'll talk about how to create a web API using .NET 6.0 framework, which is the latest version of .NET. So in the earlier session, we talk about the API, introduction bit, like how it is working and what was the flow it is connecting between website and the client. Now let's get into the Visual Studio 2022. This is the latest Visual Studio IDE, which we are using it for, creating web API, etc. I'm just, open this. Here, I think you choose like whatever, template you wanted by choosing the kind of project. Like we are going for creating a new project. Just create new project here, and then here you choose for the right template here, like we are going for web API, let's say ASP.NET Core, and choose this, click on next. And here it is asking kind of name. I'm just giving EMP registration and clicking on next. And here you need to select the framework version. Here I told you it is a 6.0 because this is the latest version right now, and select the 6.0, and we're going with HTTP, not HTTPS right now. So just uncheck this and click on create. So it will take a couple of seconds to create the dummy project, which internally adds the weather forecast controller API, where it is going to give you the list of temperature for the next 5 days. It just open this solution explorer here and expand controller. You see weather forecast controller. This is the by default controller, which is adding by .NET. And here you see a method called like get. And here the name was get weather forecast. And it is going to give you the summary of data breaches summary. And if you just run this, default, it will run through a Swagger. Swagger is again an open API standard where we can run and test the API, and also you can document the endpoints and web API methods. This is what the default Swagger showing this EMP registration API with weather forecast. This is a method which we have right now, and here's the schema. Like right now, internally it has 3 attributes, like 4 attributes, and it is showing the schema as well. And this is the get method by default as given. Just try out, just clicking on execute. It is going to give you the temperature stuff in the JSON format. This is the industry standard. We are using JSON for taking input and giving output or response back to client. Now go back to our stuff Visual Studio, back to Visual Studio here, and close this weather forecast controller and try to add your new controller with relevant to EMP. So we are going to build EMP registration, employee registration API, then try to add employee controller here, right click and controller. Here choose API and choose API controller empty and click add. It will ask you the to specify the name here. By default values controller.cs, and change these values to EMP so that it have a meaningful name for your controller. EMP controller.cs, click on add. It is going to add EMP controller.cs to the controllers folder, and this is what the default stuff it is adding into your controller just to build the solution. And so far it is okay, fine. Now let's try to add 3 to 4 methods in it, this controller API methods, like get employees and get employee based on employee ID, and add employee and edit employee or delete employee, etc, etc. Before doing that all this stuff, let's create a service for ourselves to fetch the data for us using some mark data instead of hitting database and getting the data from the DB tables. So to do this, let's create a employ a model here. Before that, you just create a model folder here. Right click and folder. It's a models, and in this models, just add your model. Let's click on this and add a class here. And in this model, I think you're going to create a model for your employee. I'll just giving employee, so that it has a meaningful name, employee.cs. So this is what my now model here, and here I'm defining required attributes like employee ID and name. Here I'm just specifying employee ID, get and post, and public string emp name, get and set. And this is emp ID. So right now I'll go with these two attributes. So must be contained on, well, that's fine. Let's try to build this. Now I've created my model here with employee, where it has two attributes, emp ID and emp name. So now let's go back to your, the solution, and try to create a mock data for this. And after you created here emp ID and emp name, two attributes, that's it. Now let's start by creating a folder called emp data, like add and emp data, where it holds my mock data, and try to create interface first to hold the mock data. So right click on it and add, and try to add a new item here, interface, and say this as I employee. That's what interface of my employee object, which I previously created model employee.cs. Now let's go to I location. So I employee here. This is the interface. So, and try to add kind of methods here, whatever methods you wanted, as I said, a list of employees. So just add void and get employees, and it is going to return my employees. So far you just create a list here of type emp. So, and try to add the model here, create, I think this is what we have created as employee, right? Employee. And what is the namespace here? We need to import models. And similar way, you try to add other methods as well. Let us say like I want another method where I'm returning only employee of given emp ID. Okay, and similar way, like I wanted to add employee to existing employees. Again, that of type employee, add employee, and it is accepting employee object, and delete employee in similar way. I think void delete employee, which is accepting employee object. Also, so I just added 4 methods here. As I mentioned, we creating 4 to 5 methods. I just taken 4 methods here and define my interface, and go back to this emp data folder and add a mock data. So just add a clause here and specify the name as mock emp data, which is holding my employee data by default, instead of getting database and getting stuff to process my addition and deletion and the fetching of employees. So here right click I employee, right, and share interface. Okay, this is defining my all methods mentioned in the interface. All these 4 methods, it was defined like this in that public employee, which is accepting employee object, and this is something the implementation part, it was added by default. And going forward, I think step by step we'll add the definition which relevance to the different specific method. Just build this and successfully build it. That's it. Now we need to inject this mock employee data to the controller. Let's do that. Go to the program.cs file, and after this, before build, try to add dot services dot. There's something called add singleton of I employee and my mock data here, mock emp data like this. And I need to import the relevant namespaces. That's all. So why I used singleton here, because I wanted to reform my mock data throughout lifetime of my application. That means I need to maintain the state of my mock data throughout the application till the the dismissal of my API running, or API no, running status. So if the service is running, and my data will be maintained till the end of my service. Okay. So once you did this, come back to your controller. This is what my controller, and here try to add your endpoints, API methods here. And before that, I think we need to add a constructor before it's in the class. Let's say like public emp controller, which is my controller name. And here I'm providing a variable of type I interface emp data. And in this, that but must have a type, sure. And here I'm going to assign this emp data to one of the variable, and for that I'm going to declare a global variable I employee data here, or I think I employees simply, and emp data. And for this emp data, I'm assigning emp data here. Let's try to import registration.emp data. And that's it for now. This is called emp controller. So that's it for now. To declare a constructor, try to build the solution, succeeded. And now this is the right time to add your endpoints here. And now start to create API methods. First, I'll create public action result. This is the default return type. Get employees. And this is going to return my employee list. This is a variable having get employees. That's it. Get employees. Okay, and go back to here, which actually method. This method doesn't have any implementation in it. And before that, we need to define some mock data here. Let's try to define the mock data here by simply putting some mock data of type private list employee of employees equal to new list of employee. And here I'm going to create two records of type new employee, and one is emp id. This is what the variable we have defined of type new value, and another one is emp name, that is employee one. And similar way, just create one more instance. So this is employee 2. That's it. And semicolon, build the solution. Now we are ready with mock data. Then let's spin and run the application. So before that, go to get employees I think not this one. Return employees dot get employee. I think you can directly get employee, or I think you'll define this later. I think put this. This is the initial one. Come to here. This is for the right now we're implementing it. So we need to return list of employees. I think if I say this, how it looks like. Just spin and run your application. One error it is throwing, and coming here, and it is saying some conversion. Just try to use OK. Pass your input data to OK. This is something like okay, so we have to wrap it to get the data using OK. Now build the solution and run this application. So API, and see like how it looks like. So okay, let's go back to this and try to switch off Swagger. Just remove this. And in the controller, I think we need to specify the header. This is my HTTP get, and this is my root, which I'm going to specify that like what kind of URI you are expecting to give. I'm saying API or just give controller. So based on my controller name, it is going to fetch. Now just run this and spin and run the API, and it is showing like this 404 is fine. Just try to use your controller, that is EMP, and controller was EMP, and try to API EMP. Wow, go back to this, and in this launch API. So it's all about return. And controller, what was wrong with this controller? Let me look at this. This is my controller. And then it is my employees. Okay. And this. And check what is happening here. Get employee. EMP. No. Okay, got it. So this is what we have in this. This has to be removed from here because in which specified here, and no need to specify again there. And just spin and run the application now and see like how it is working. Employee. Good. Now if you look at the response here, it has given my response as this is the employee ID, and this is employee 1, this is the employee 2, this is the employee. This is going to give you all the existing employees list here because you have given EMP of get method. And you same test this method using Postman here, and here say EMP and get, and it is giving employee stuff. That's okay. Now go back to this application controller here and try to add another method like get employee, and I'm expecting parameter ID and get employee. Expect some ID. So in this, so let's try to say that EMP record. is employee data dot get employee of ID, and I'll check that if emp record equal to null, then return okay of emp record, and otherwise I'll just say return not found of some message employee with ID was not found. Spin this application, and for that I think you need to go back to this employee where you have marked data, and here you need to implement the employee stuff like return employees dot single or default of x ID. If ID equal to employee ID, then return single row, otherwise it returns null. Okay. That's equal to fine. Employee HU ID. Okay. This is something x of x dot ID. MP ID equal to ID. Just try to build this. So potential not detail. No, I think we have to say employee ID. Build this and run this application now and go back to your Postman script. Again, get, still you get 2 records. Now try to get single employee by pausing name. I'm just taking this ID and pausing here. Still I have get method and click on this. Employee with ID not found. Wow, it is happening. X dot X employee ID show ID. The controller, I think we are passing get employee of ID. It is not equal to, okay. Just rebuild it and run again. Fine, and go back and just get the employees, and it will give you 2 reports, and just take this second one and pass the ID as parameter and get it. You will get the relevant employee. So this how it looks like, fetching the employee based on the ID you're passing. So because my controller routing was controller and ID, and irrespective of method name you are giving it here, based on this it is going to fetch the relevant data and return back to browser. Now if I say a wrong ID here, it will going to throw this exception. Let me try this. Okay, and just emp and just get 2 records. Still I get this and copy and paste it. Now I got this value, and if I say some wrong value here, I'm going to get this information. Employee with the ID was not found. This is what the message we have given here if it is null. So this is how it looks, firing get employee. Now go back to controller and try to add a post method here to add a new uh, employee HTTP post, and still it is with controller, and this is something like add employee. An add employee must have an employee object, employee of, let me check, P or emp date or it'll okay, emp employee of emp, and so, and coming here I'll get the stuff for the add employee, like remove this stuff and emp data dot add employee of emp. So semicolon, what it is expecting. Just pass the emp dot id. This must be not emp. This is the model. It import add employee and return. I wanted to give some meaningful status here, and so I'm going to use it. Created of HTTP text dot dot scheme plus dash HTTP text request dot HTTP context dot request dot path plus dash, and it's emp dot emp id emp. Just build the solution. It has succeeded, and go back to this implementation, add employee in the mark data. Oh, why it is throwing this running here? It's like this. That's okay. So add employee here. Try to add employee stuff to the existing employee data, like return. Otherwise, just generate employee dot emp id for it to the value, because this ID is dynamic and include we have defined it. It should come through the program. Employee dot emp name equal to employee dot name. I think you directly add this emp ID, and then I think employees dot add of emp employee, and then return the employee I think we have defined employee, then better you define only employee. Build this, spin your application, and go back and check here whether you still get the employees or not, and just sending it and still getting these values. And for the post method, select post in the body, and you define the raw data and select JSON, and here, and you say your employee name was employee 3. Now send this request. It was added. Now choose get and say it is returning 3 employees. And similar way, you just add one more employee if you want. 4 employee, just send. It is added and fetch the data. Now you see 4 employees. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is how it looks like. It is working based on the HTTP web. You mentioned it. And similar way, I think you write for another last method of deleting employee and define your delete endpoint in your controller. I think you just copy this and here, and you say delete employee, which is accepting some key value, and this must be delete. Okay, here we need to first know the check whether the given ID was existed or not, as like we have verified it in the get employee in the similar way. Just copying this, pasting, and I'll check for whether it is existed or not. If it is existed, then what I need to say was this is not this one. I think we need to change the logic. Data dot delete employee of PMP record, and if it is null, it still throws this exception. Build this solution. It's expected. I think you need to give one more. Yes. Save and run this. Go to this implementation part in the mock data, and here just remove this and say simply employees dot delete or remove of employee. Build this, spin this application, and go back to your Postman and check this. Get, I'll have 2 records by default marked in my mock data, and try to add it one new record. The body, I think you just mentioned employee new, add it, and fetch the data again. You have 3 records. Just try to remove the first employee, choose delete as the HTTP web method, and I think we did a mistake. So just pause this and click on this. It will not give you an input because you're not mentioned any parameter in your URI. Go back to your controller, and here you need to specify this coming with ID parameter. And spin this application again and go back to your Postman and get the data of your existing employees mock data and try to add the data the employee new, and again get the data. So I'll still get 3 employees, and try to remove a first employee and choose HTTP web as delete and pass this one. Now employee with ID not found. why I think we did mistake here. We are passing ID to this and it is getting not equal null. We are removing it. What is happening here? Delete location, delete employee, we are doing it, and then it is throwing. I think we must say return here. Otherwise, was it still give you the problem? Why? Because you are not returning any data here. I think okay. Removing it. So what we did for save was a simple way, but it is throwing the exception. Was removing, and I think this might be in the else point. Let's define this way. Let's build this. Oh, I think it won't return any value. Okay. I think you just remove this because we I think in the mock data, I think we mentioned wide and controller. Specify this. Okay. What is the problem in this? Go back here. It's defining the code. And I think you can return the data. I think the employees mock data, better you remove this and specify employee. Then return this. Okay, city board. The controller, I think you just return this. Okay. Actually, once you remove this, try to return employees if that is the case. And here, I think return EMP data. What's the mistake we're doing it here? Employees. This is employees. Okay. And nice. Get employees. Returns. think it must be white. That way we are not returning any value. And here also I think no need to return anything. And it's crazy, man. Delete employee, and this is just deleting or out of code paths. Let's if I suggest white. Now it is succeeded. Just spin the application and see like how it is working. Go to your S1 and just run this. Still you have this true and try to add a new employee. It is adding and try to get. You have 3. Now try to remove the first one. Then try to select delete. And send this and again fetch this and remove this. Now see, first employee was removed. So this is how we are going to define the API methods here, and based on that you will be invoking by choosing the relevant HTTP web method. And similarly, I think you add whatever methods you wanted and you build the API based on the requirement. And same way, I think going back to here, now enable your Swagger this way and just run this so that it will run through a Swagger application like this way. So look at here, get, post, get. I have these methods and still you go it and try it and execute. And I have 2 employees here. And I'll just take the one employee, the UID, and execute this one, employee ID. Try out, was it, and execute. It will give you one employee of the matched given employee ID. So this is how it looks like, testing using the Swagger OpenAPI standard and writing of web API in .NET 6.0 framework. So I hope you understand like how basically build an API using ASP.NET using .NET Framework 6.0 and defining root API and root URIs with the proper HTTP webs. And thanks for watching this video. And please subscribe this channel for more videos on this .NET topics. Thank you.